Hey, lizard people. So let's talk about the best worms for bearded dragons and baby bearded dragons. So the quick and dirty answer of this is the best worms for bearded dragons are the ones smaller than the space between their eyes, packed with healthy proteins and fats, sold from farms and that are bred especially for reptiles and bearded dragons. Making sure that you're feeding worms that are smaller than the space between their eyes is very important. Here's a diet overview of what your bearded dragon will be eating through different stages of their life. Younger bearded dragons need a diet with more protein, and older bearded dragons need a more plant-based diet. So a young dragon will have about 30% plants or greens to 70% protein. This includes the insects and worms. And adults will be the opposite of that. So they'll have 70% greens and 30% protein. And for a quick reference, I provided a table on this that you can see. You can pause here or make notes of this if you would like. But here's an age, diet ratio, the amount, and then frequency of feeding. So 0 to 3 months through 8 to 12 months, you see that it's around 70% insect, 30% vegetable until they're a year or older. That's whenever it swaps to about 30% insects, 70% vegetables, and then you can see the corresponding amount of feedings or amount of insects. And but what you need to pay attention to is at the year or older mark, you're going to have specific days. So one day would be a salad, one day insects, one day nothing, and then repeat that cycle throughout their feedings. Here's how to feed your bearded dragon these worms. So never feed your bearded dragon any insect or worm larger than the distance between their eyes, as we mentioned earlier. This can cause the food to get stuck, put pressure on their spine, cause paralysis, and potentially death. So when you start feeding, start by placing the food in their enclosure in front of the bearded dragon. He should show interest in the food and then begin to eat it. And keep providing insects and food, and as long as he will continue eating it until they stop or begin to show that they're no longer interested. When they're finished eating, stop putting out new food. Give them a few minutes for taking the food out, with the last few bits that you put in there, because your pet may come back for more. But if they move on to something else instantly after eating, like basking, go ahead and remove the food, and never leave food in there so that it rots or spoils. This can cause health problems and sickness if you leave, or if they begin to eat rotten worms or anything like that. Here's a list of some of the best worms that you can get for your dragon. These are going to include Butterworms, Hornworms, Millworms, Superworms, Phoenixworms, Silicworms, and Waxworms. So for Butterworms, they're also known as Travoworms. They're a staple in the reptile diet. Very high in calcium. You can keep them in the fridge for a long time. You can gut load them before feeding for more nutrition. And gut loading can be done with all live worms, by the way, all insects. And it's a great way to make sure your pet receives enough of nutrition, calcium, things like that. So when you gut load, you feed the insects or worms nutrient-dense food the day before feeding them to your bearded dragon. So that way that all those nutrients are in the belly of the worm or the food that the dragon will then consume. Hornworms are a type of caterpillar which grow up to roughly 4 inches long. These are very popular with bearded dragons because their movement draws the bearded dragon in to eat quickly, and they're packed with calcium and water, so they're also really good for hydration. But these are often given as a special treat or snack because they are more expensive. But like I said, they are very popular, and that extra nutrients is great. So just, if you can't afford to have them constantly, they're just great to pick up here and there. Your pet will thank you and really enjoy them. Millworms are a very, very popular option in the bearded dragon's diet, but they shouldn't be. Millworms are high in fat, low in protein, and they can cause your bearded dragon to become obese. if you feed them too much, and they shouldn't be fed at all to young bearded dragons. But as a treat, bearded dragons do love their flavor and they'll gobble them up. But so they're similar to the hornworm. Just kind of use them as a treat. Don't make these a core part of what you're feeding your pet. So superworms are a healthier version of mealworms. They have more protein and less fat, but they're still low in calcium. So these are another worm that's used for a treat or a snack, but it's a healthier alternative to the mealworm. I recommend only feeding this to your bearded dragon superworms maybe once a week. Phoenixworms are a great choice as a staple worm for your pet. They're high in calcium, protein, and phosphorus, and they don't even need to be gut loaded. Silicworms are very small, but they're also packed with nutrients like iron, magnesium, vitamins B1, 2, 3, sodium, and calcium. These are very good options for young and growing bearded dragons. Another good worm are waxworms, and these would be another treat worm. They're large, making them more suitable for adult bearded dragons, because remember, you don't want to feed them anything larger than the space between their eyes, and these worms are really high in fat. So worms are an essential part of a healthy reptile's diet, but it's important to know the best worms to use or to feed your dragon, and the ones we covered should give you enough options to choose from. Just make sure that the worms that you are using are high in nutritional content, the ones that are being fed most often, and that they're always smaller than the space between their eyes. I know I keep saying that, but it is very, very important to make sure that they're not too large when you're feeding the worm to your pet. So if you liked this information and you like this video, I'd like to invite you to check out my Bearded Dragon Handbook. This book was created by me, and it covers everything from A to Z that you can think of with bearded dragons. It's a great digital handbook for somebody that's looking to own a bearded dragon, or somebody who recently got one, or even the feedback I have gotten, even experts have really learned a lot from this handbook. So if that's something you're interested in, you can look in the description. I'll have a link to it there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. I will also leave more information in the description under this video if you'd like to check out my website. I have just tons and tons of articles there on different types of reptiles, and I've covered the bearded dragon extensively. Thank you for watching. Share this with a friend, and until next time, see you later. Bye.